Hey, Retrospectors, I want to thank you for joining us for another Ralph's Retrospect. Today we have another great interview with someone whose name is Dave Marsh. Dave Marsh, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are and the company you work for?
Right. So I started in the game industry in '85, I think. First game I ever made was an Apple II version of the classic arcade game Wizards of War. Did some artwork for that. And then I started making adventure games on the Mac, a game called Shadowgate, and then worked on a number of other titles, a game called The Uninvited, Déjà Vu 2, and then tons of ports to every conceivable machine. And then worked on a number of SNES titles, and then everything else under the sun there. And moved from Chicago to Virginia, where I was working on MMOs, and then eventually started my own company in 2012 called Zojoi. Reacquired the rights to all my old games, my adventure games, which is Shadowgate, Déjà Vu, Uninvited, and some Sherlock Holmes Consultant Detective FMV games, and kickstarted Shadowgate. It did pretty well, and so I just run this little tiny company of me, and then some other developers, friends, and other colleagues that I've met over the years, and we continue to make games,
Sure.
adventure games.
Yeah, well, I can say I am truly a huge fan of Shadowgate. That's why I got my green screen. I can't see this name Shadowgate.
Okay.
But
That's pretty funny.
I got Shadowgate in box. I've got Beyond Shadowgate. Again, it's hard to see, but Beyond Shadowgate.
For the TurboGrafx.
Yep. And I got the Shadowgate 64.
Which I really had nothing to do with, but
yeah.
There.
Still, Shadowgate, gotta love it. I am sincerely one of the biggest Shadowgate fans. It's one of my big collections is Shadowgate. So again, interviewing you is yes.
I think I've contributed to that collection.
Yep, we're gonna get to that here in a little bit. We're gonna talk about how we met and all that good stuff. So, but yeah, it is definitely one of the passions of mine is Shadowgate. It's something I grew up and absolutely loved. I remember getting stuck in Shadowgate at one point in time, and but yeah, no, I got stuck, and the kid on a bus told me how to like get across the rickety bridge. Like I could not for the life of me figure out how to get across. And as soon as he told me that, boom, I was off.
And it was a spell, right?
It was a bottle two. I will never, I will never forget bottle two. So, but that was great. So, what made you want to get into creating games?
Yeah, so I kind of looked into it. I had an old machine from Radio Shack. Just had a paint program on it. I was a big D&D player. I loved comics, loved D&D. Drew like crazy, and then I got this old Tandy machine, and it's pretty funny because literally it was a joystick, and you'd pick a color, right? You'd pick blue, and then you'd move it up, ding, 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 and then you'd drop blue, and then you'd have to move it back down. You couldn't just place another blue. You had to move back down, ding, 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 to grab blue again and place it. And I would just make creatures and robots and starships and things. Wow. And I was doing youth ministry at a big church, and I met a guy there and a friend, and he was in the middle of programming. He was working at ICOM Simulations, working on Déjà Vu and Uninvited, and I thought it was so cool. So just meeting him, he lent me. I showed him just some stuff I did on the computer, and he lent me a Mac, a black and white Mac. And myself and my colleague Carl Rulofs, my best friend, we decided we were going to make a fantasy game, and so we had no idea what we were doing. And so I just started drawing, and Carl was doing the design, and it just kind of snowballed from there. They gave us jobs, and we just went on to port those games to, it'd be PC, multiple resolutions of PC, and Apple II, and the Commodore 64, the Apple II GS, the Commodore Amiga, the Atari ST for starts, before Camco approached us and wanted to do, Shadowgate for the NES. So
okay.
That's, I guess I kind of went a little too far, but to answer your question, I just got kind of involved in computer graphics right at the beginning. Playing MUDs, at the local library, on a modem. So just loved everything about how games worked. My favorite game at the time was a game called Venture,
Okay.
which is a very, simple game on the Apple II. So, I guess that's how I got started.
Cool. Very good. So, so would you say storytelling is your forte? Is that what you like doing?
It is.
Very cool. So were you like how much of the story? How much do you have you contributed to the story of like say Shadowgate and Déjà, like getting involved with Deja Vu and stuff?
Well, Deja Vu less because Deja Vu was done by the time I got in.
Okay.
On board. Obviously, Shadowgate, Carl and I did the whole story, and it was a pretty simple story, right?
Mm-hmm.
Guy see a prophecy going off, wanting to stop the Warlock Lord and all that.
Sure.
And so, we really had no idea what we were doing, right? And you can probably tell with a few of the puzzles. So, a little bit more storyline on Uninvited, a little less involved in the puzzles, a little bit more involved in artwork and that. Deja Vu 2 more involved in just the plot of it in general, which I think is a great McVenture. It's probably my favorite.
Okay.
To be the Deja Vu. But always loved storytelling. Always loved adventures. Never really got a chance to do. I don't think those games did tell a story, but we were pretty limited at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So when we redid Shadowgate in 2014, spent more time with the storytelling, more cutscenes, more bits, but keeping the same plot pretty much. So,
okay.
But adventure games are pretty much the only thing I like to make, or things like putting the Sherlock Holmes games out again. I just love the mystery behind it. So.
Yeah, the Sherlock Holmes game was pretty cool. I didn't even know you had anything to do with that until you told me, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I played that. That's a really good game." So
I was really an art director on that.
Okay.
And then worked on this game called Dracula Unleashed, which I was the producer of. So
okay.
And that had a lot of storytelling, but I think we're trying to get more and more involved with storytelling, especially as an indie. It's very difficult if you want to try to compete with, the big boys. It's impossible. It's impossible to go ahead, when they've got, 100 people on staff working on a game and you've got 6. And so you have to spend a lot more time on story because you're, the end result of the game. If it's a great story, players are going to love it. But I can't compete with, some of the, the graphics that they're putting out on the PlayStation 4. It's just,
sure.
They have 30 artists on it and I have 2. So
yeah. I mean, honestly, though, a great story can trump graphics. I mean, that it was I mean, even mediums like VR and things like that, when it first came out, was like very low resolution, and a lot of people were downing it because of the resolution. But I mean, if it immerses you, it doesn't matter the resolution. It pulls you in. So, and this great story can do that same thing. So I completely believe that. So
I am glad that you agree with me.
I agree.
That's really my goal here.
Yeah. Sure. So, did you keep all your creative control when, when these games got ported to the NES, the Nintendo? Were there anything?
No. So that's an interesting story, mm-hmm. right? Which I haven't told very often. But so Camco at that time, Mr. Okahara was the CEO, and his right hand man was a man named Mr. Nishimura, and I dealt with a great engineer named Shinjo, and so they contacted us, and Shinjo contacted us, and they said, we want to go ahead and convert your McVentures to the NES. And I don't remember what the size of the cartridge was back. What was the size of the cartridge of the original NES? Do you know?
Is it 512? It's something like
very
that.
Small.
Yeah.
And so we just said, look, it can't be done because it's just, using the controller, you just can't do it. And they said, we really want to do this. And we said, all right, well, go ahead and try. And we literally just were kind of like, they're not going to do it. So they came back with, 3 or 4 rooms. And we were really impressed with how well it played and how they were able to go ahead and just with the limited number of sprites and all that they were able to do it. And so we said, look, it has to be the same. It's going to have to be this. We want it to be the same game. But there were some things like on Shadowgate that were cut out from the original think the Goblin Room is gone in the NES game, right, compared to the Mac one, the original one.
Mm-hmm.
And so there were some things too for cartridge standpoint. But I think the thing that impressed me the most was Hiroyuki's music. Which was just amazing. Those chip tunes are, this is why we included the chip tunes. We got rights to get, from Camco to include the chip tunes in the new Shadowgate, which, switching to that mode, people love it. And I love those tunes. And then then Rich Douglas he's awesome. He went and built on that. Right?
Yeah.
So,
oh man, the soundtrack for the Shadowgate is amazing.
Yeah.
Rich Douglas did a fantastic job.
It's funny because I found Rich. I was just looking for somebody to do music when I redid the game, and I was just sitting on the beach in Virginia Beach, and I just went on YouTube and found it. And I just sent him an email, and an hour later we're talking. We worked out a deal. It was wonderful. But back to Camco, and so they, we saw that it was obviously very cool, very different than anything else that was already out on the NES, right? Mm-hmm. In games, just tons of side scrollers, obviously Mario being, the big one. And it was just very different, this first person adventure game, and well done. So, and of course it worked really well on the Color Game Boy as well. And so, the only changes we would make was, it was translated from English to Japanese, and then they translated it back to English. And so we would get some weird things, like I don't know if you remember, if there were certain things in the games that you couldn't do, mm-hmm. We had a standard default response was things like, sorry, you can't do that, or, oh, you made a mistake. Mm-hmm. And I remember them translating that to, you pulled a boner. Which I get, which I understand. It is a phrase.
It is, yeah.
Correct phrase, but we just laughed at it. And so I had a great relationship with those guys. And so, the port to the NES was a wonderful thing. And Carl and I helped write a book on that too. And so it was just a great experience. And I loved those guys at Camco.
Okay. Did you happen to have anything to do with before Shadowgate, the book?
Right, yeah, so that's what I'm talking about. So Carl and I went in, we plotted it all out, and then just made general notes of dialogue, sometimes specific, all the characters and everything, and then the writer then went in and just took everything we've got and filled in the gaps. It was probably the easiest thing that she had to write because we had done so much. We were so excited, about working on that and getting a chance to do it. So it was a lot of fun.
Very cool. Yeah, I remember picking up before Shadowgate. I was in 8th grade, and I remember they had all of, the Nintendo books for sale in our cafeteria of all places. When we had lunch, you could go out and buy some of the Scholastic books or some books, whatever. Yeah. And they had that. And I was like, oh, I saw before Shadowgate. It's like, I have to get that. It's so cool. And
I think I still have a couple copies somewhere. Yeah,
that's pretty cool. So okay. So now recently. I'd say recently, but I think 2014 when you guys re-released Shadowgate.
Right. Yeah, we kickstarted in 2012, put it out in 2014. Yeah.
Sure. So what was the response you guys got to releasing that on Kickstarter? Because I got in to that, like after it already had gone through, I realized that someone pointed out, like, oh my gosh, they remade Shadowgate, and I was like, how did I not know this? Like, I got
Right.
all the other Shadowgate stuff. But what was the response like when you guys started
Yeah,
recreating that?
so it was really interesting because I tried to Kickstart Sherlock and didn't work well, and I don't think I understood Kickstarter as well.
Mm-hmm.
The effort that had to go in, and I never put that into the Sherlock stuff. And I don't think I ever put in the kind of time that was required for that. And so, we decided to go in with Shadowgate, and we did a ton of prep, and got as much get as much stuff out there as we could to let people know it was coming. And started off a little slow, but at the same, once the word started getting out that Shadowgate was out there, it was great. I mean, I got some negative comments because people were like, "Don't remake this," right? But we wanted to do a version that since we were involved, the original makers, Carl and I,
Mm-hmm.
we just thought, who better to go ahead and take a shot at it. And the good response was great. I think our goal was 120,000. I think we ended up like with 140 or something, which was not enough to make a game, but we made it work. The thing about Kickstarter is, right, if you start getting close, people will pile on because they just want to see it succeed. So the response was really good, and I think the way that we approached it with the videos was good. We did a ton. I think we had like 60 updates,
Wow.
which considering a 30. I don't remember what a 30-day thing, but it. So we just put our heart and soul into it, and it was well received.
Very nice. Yeah. Do you care if I tell the story about how we met?
No, go ahead.
Okay. So basically, it was just after, a little bit after, I guess it was a couple years after, a year or so after the 2014 Shadowgate got released. You had posted something on Facebook where you were asking, "Hey, does anybody still have your Shadowgate?" And I was like, "Do I?" So I got all my stuff together and this picture, like all my Shadowgate stuff. I'm like, this is like awesome. So this is everything that I have. And he responded back like, "Oh wow, like do you care if we post your picture on one?" It's like, heck yeah, like that's awesome. And so you responded back with that, and then you were saying, "Yeah, by the way, we're going to send you some Shadowgate swag." And I was like, "Oh, cool." I was like, and then I was talking with my friend, and I was like, "Oh, you know what? One of the things I really, 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 really wanted was the Shadowgate card game because I had missed out on the Kickstarter, and I said,
Right, Quest of
hey,
Shadowgate, yeah,
Quest of Shadowgate." And I was like, I was like, "Hey, just out of curiosity, do you happen to have any more of those? Because I would absolutely love to get one of those." And you're like, "Oh yeah, I'm throwing them." Like, I was like, "Yeah, awesome." So he sends me the card game, and I'm trying to learn how to play it, and it took me a little bit. The instructions were they were okay.
yes,
They were okay,
they were a little yes.
It was okay. I mean, I learned it, but I was like, oh, you know what? Because normally I'm a visual learner, so I wanted to go on like YouTube and find someone who knew how to play it, but there were no videos. There were no videos of anybody playing it. I'm like, well, crap. So I was like, hey, do you care if I make a video showing off like the tutorial of like what the rules are, and then also how to play it, and then actually show a demonstration of the game? And you're like, sure, go ahead. And so I created it and put together the tutorial stuff, and I really put as like a lot of effort into it to make sure that it looked really, really good. Because like I said, I wanted to do you proud because, like I said, I'm a huge fan of your work. So then I put it together. I remember you actually called me. You were like, "What kind of magic are you?"
Yeah, I was a little blown away.
Yeah, because and I'll maybe show a little video here, but basically I had recreated the entire game instead of it was Tabletop Simulator, and so when we were showing it off, it was just kind of like simulated on this table, and me and my friend were playing it and showing it off, and it was really cool. So, and then
and it's on I think I have it on the Zojoi site, right?
Yep,
yeah,
yep.
You can see all both those videos in there. Yeah,
sure. And then so then you were saying, hey, by the way, I'm working on another game, and I
right.
was considering like, would you be considered maybe putting a trailer together? And I was like, well, I've never really put together a trailer before, but sure, why not? Let's try it. So then, and then that kind of leads me into basically the next question I was going to ask you is, you've recently announced a brand new game from Zojoi. You want to tell us a little bit about
it? Sure. It's called Argonus and the Gods of Stone. It's kind of my love letter to to the movies of the 60s and 70s, which is the Sinbad movies and Jason the Argonauts and those types of movies that just really captured. I just loved them as a kid, and just thought that they were, what magic is this, right? How can this be done? And just fell in love with it. And so when we finished Shadowgate, we were working on 2 games. We were working on Argonus, and we were working on Beyond Shadowgate. And I had met an artist at what's the board game con in Ohio? Was it it's Omega Con? Is that what it is? Omega?
Sounds right. I'm not sure. I only know the one about Indianapolis because it's the biggest board gaming convention.
So I went there and I met him, and he was a 3D sculpting artist for board games, and but he was a Shadowgate fan, which was really cool. So his name was Adam Mixner, and he's awesome. And he came on board, and then Sarah Watson, who's our chief designer, she did a ton of scripting and testing and things for Shadowgate, but she's brilliant. So we were working on it, and she's a huge Greek, mythology fan and stuff. So we were working on that. And then when the team that was working on Beyond Shadowgate, they basically burned out. I mean, that's really what it comes down to it and stuff. And so we had to, at the moment, just put Beyond Shadowgate aside, but we were already working on Argonus. Okay. So we continued, and so Argonus is, where Shadowgate is a 2D game with some 3D elements and particle effects and things. At least the 2014 version. Mm-hmm. Argonus is first, and it's also obviously Shadowgate's first person. This Argonus is first person as well, but it's in a fully developed 3D world, so it's kind of a cross between an adventure game and a walking sim. So it's just been a joy. We've been working on it for 5 years, but it's a very small team. Mm-hmm. But I think what we've accomplished, with this team and the plot and the writing and the scripting and the art, and of course Rich Douglas is back for audio, which is amazing. We have it's as if it's like if you're familiar with Greek mythology, the Argonautica is a great poem that tells the story of Jason the Argonauts, and so we decided we were going to tell it from a third person point of view, a narrator. And so a friend of mine is named Betsy Brantley. She was in Princess Bride and Who Framed Roger Rabbit and a number of other movies, but she's just got this amazing voice.
Oh, wow.
Argonus takes a single cautious step forward before 2 eyes, set like burning coals, narrow and stop him cold. The Daimon's grotesque head turns, regarding the sailor.
Nay, Argonus, son of Argus, thou cannot pass beyond this threshold. So says Hades, lord of the underworld.
And so she sounds like, Cate Blanchett from Lord of the Rings. And so you can just hear her read anything, and you're like, I love you. You're just the best. And I want whatever you're telling me on this enchanted island, I want to know more. And so, we just had this great group, and it's just been a real joy. And, compared to Shadowgate, it's so different. But if you love Shadowgate, you'll love this. We took the UI, and Chris, obviously you've been playing it. Mm-hmm. We took the UI and we took that command system of a million things and brought it down to like 3. Made it really intuitive, really immersive, and at the same time, compared to Shadowgate, which I know that everybody loves, different ways to die. And that was a lot of fun, but in Argonus you can't die, which is kind of a neat thing. So it's you never have to worry about that. Just enjoy the story and the adventure. So it's just been a blast. And so we just put the trailer out a couple weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago. Yeah. And we're kind of in our own small closed beta right now. And then we're going to be starting beta testing with a larger group of closed beta folks in the next couple of weeks.
Okay. Well, I have the exclusive trailer right here because I helped you make it. Do you care if we show it off? Do you care if we show it off right now?
Please do. That'd be awesome.
Excellent.
this night. Dark waters rise, rise over me. Your spell it falls over me. Unsalted wind beyond my sight. Dark waters call out to me. Dark waters call, calling me home.
When shall my hate have its fill? When shall it be placated? Never.
Your spell it falls over me. Falls over me.
Well, one of the things I can say with the particular trailer,
The awesomely edited, wonderful
trailer. Oh my
captured
gosh,
trailer.
so fantastic. Is that a lot of people keep asking, like, oh man, like one of the things that really grips them, like they love the music in the background. Rich Douglas did for that song. Like everybody's like, man, it's like that's a really awesome trailer. Like that song is just it captures it. It's really good. So they absolutely love that. So it's going to be a fun game. It's going to be really good.
It's a neat story. So Rich and I were just sitting around. He wrote some lyrics. I wrote some lyrics. He said, there's somebody that. So Rich owns a theater, like a small theater in a small town in Texas, just like a cool place that has all this history. And there's a girl that works for him. Her name is Raven, and she's 18. And he said he would tell me, this girl sounds like Adele. You should, we should use her. She would love to do something. And so I said, yeah, let's do a contract and let's go ahead and come up with something, record it. And then she did that song and gave us chills. So we were really, really excited just the fact that she got a chance to do that. I love meeting people that are just cool and they just have a talent. And I'm like, let's get that talent out there. I'll pay you. I never do that thing where I say, we're going to give you exposure. I'm always, like, hey, I want to pay you to do your work. Whether we have 2 or 3 interns from George Mason University. All these guys get paid, and we get them through their game design, major and stuff. It's just it's great. But she was great. It was a great trailer. In fact, we're working on another one, aren't we? But except finalize that, but. It's something completely different.
It's in work, so it'll be cool when it's done. So where can people find more information about Argonus and where to find you?
Right, yeah. So if you just want to go to Zojoi.com, which is ZOJOI.com, you can do that, or you can go to Argonus.com and it'll just redirect you. You can go to the Steam page. You can see screenshots. The videos are there. Video for both. The standard edition, and then what we call the Olympus edition, which includes Rich's score, and then an art book by a guy named Betsy Zitro, who's amazing. And then Betsy had recorded so much voiceover that I wrote the rest of the all the bits of moving from one cool scene to the next, and we recorded basically a 3.5-hour audiobook. I mean, and then Rich scored the whole thing and all sound effects and everything. It's amazing. So, and you've heard it, right?
I have.
Chris?
The first 3 chapters. Yep.
It's just amazing. 3.5 hours of I mean, it's basically a walkthrough of the game, but it's wonderful to listen to if you love audiobooks. And again, just another reason we love storytelling. So
sure. Okay. Well, thanks again for joining me on Ralph's Retrospect. Again,
Thank you, sir.
Good luck on your game, and I'll be there. I'll be helping you push this as much as possible. So,
Appreciate it.
So, but yeah, no, I want to thank everybody for joining us on this interview. If you want, give us a thumbs up if you like the video. Subscribe to the channel. Yeah. Subscribe to the channel, and then hit the bell for notifications. We'll see more Retro Ralph, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Take it easy.
Thanks, everyone.